Hi there. Good Saturday morning to you. It's Rebecca Stark, and I am popping in to get a DNF, a Do Not Fear video in. So, again, thank you for if you've been watching along and you've been hanging out with me for um, a few months. Thank you for your patience and thank you for understanding that I get these videos done when I can, and it's not as often as I had hoped, but I'm working as best I can, and want you to see my. It is December. It is the holiday season, meaning Christmas season, and this is a sweater that I had packed away with my Christmas sweaters. I probably don't need to have it packed away. It says believe, and you can believe in any time of the year. It doesn't have to be Christmas, but hopefully you are feeling the Christmas spirit, the holiday spirit, and you're excited. The season that we're in December is very often called Advent season. It's the season where we're waiting for Jesus to be born. Certainly, if you go back into the Bible and you read the story of Mary and Joseph and even Elizabeth, Mary's cousin, they're all visited by angels and told, you're going to have a child. So Elizabeth, Mary's cousin, first conceives the son that will become John the Baptist. And John the Baptist is the voice in the wilderness, calling out in the wilderness and making the way. So there's all kinds of excitement and anticipation and just looking forward. Certainly everybody around is excited and looking forward to Christmas in various ways, whether it be running around and trying to get the right presents for everybody, or making it through all of the holiday parties, or just decorating the house and making plans and figuring out what they're going to do for Christmas. So I hope all is well. I hope it's peaceful for you wherever you are. I hope that you have some peace in your life and whatever you're doing. So I even have my Christmas mugs out. So I was trying to ponder through quickly. I've got the time. What am I going to do? This video on, and I was going to show you outside. There's been a very dense fog. There was a very dense fog yesterday morning. In fact, I had to drive my son to school, and it was the fog was so thick you could barely see from one street lamp to the next. It was amazing. But we had some fog again today, but it's starting to burn off. But I was thinking about fog, and I was thinking about how fog relates to faith. And I didn't look it up. I don't know exactly what it's from, but growing up, we had something on our wall that said, forgive me, I'm paraphrasing, but, I believe in love even when I feel it not. I believe in the sun even when it's not shining, and I believe in God even when he's not there. Forgive me, paraphrase. This is something that hung on my walls as a child, and it was there for forever. But the weather this morning reminded me of that, and it's not a verse, it's not a Bible verse, it's just a quote or, inspirational writing. But with the fog, right, you see the fog out, and when I see the fog, I have faith. I know that fog is going to lift, the atmospheric conditions are going to shift, the sun is going to come out, and we're going to see the sun, we're going to see the sky. That fog's not going to be settled there forever. So that's just my goofy little thoughts that were rattling through my brain. My Bible verses this morning in my own review were nothing explicitly do not fear, but there's just kind of that underlying current of having faith and believing. So I am just going to share with you what my Bible review was like this morning. and let you judge for yourself. So we're going to start with Ecclesiastes 7:13. Consider the work of God. Who can make straight what he has made crooked? Consider the things that God made. Have they ever been undone? Have they ever been changed dramatically? The zebra, right? God created all of the animals, all of the creatures on the earth. They're all unique in their own right. And as much as God is seeking, or man is seeking to unlock the mysteries of the genetic code and figure out how to remake animals, nobody's ever tried to make a different animal. That just doesn't really happen. What God has made, and it's good. So consider the work of God. Who can change what he has made? That's Ecclesiastes 7:13. This next one it's a little verbose. There's a little more wordiness to this, but I thought this was interesting. So this is now Colossians. So we're jumping forward into the New Testament, and Colossians 2:18 says, "Don't tolerate people who try to run your life, ordering you to bow and scrape, insisting that you join their obsession with angels, and that you seek out visions." Those people who are ordering you this, they are a lot of hot air. That's all they are. So if you have anybody out there who's trying to say, oh, do this or do that, or, even probably a little more disconcerting, asking you to bow down to them rather than bowing down to God, that's a little concerning. So this verse wraps up with, they're completely out of touch with the source of life. And who is that source of light? Ecclesiastes 7:13, again, refers back to God, right? God created all of this, and it is all great. The way God made it, it is amazing. So don't tolerate people who try and come in and try and run your life and say, oh, you need to do this, or you need to do this, or you need to bow down. And then last but not least, just one more, 1 John 4:5. These enemies belong to this world, and the world listens to them because those enemies, speak the world's language. These enemies belong to this world, and the world listens to them because they speak its language. So I'm going to try and bring my little jumble of thoughts that are going around all together to a head that is just an encouragement to not be afraid. So bear with me for just a minute. So these are the jumbled thoughts that are going through. I'm reading this amazing book. I'm just blessed. I'm very grateful that I've met wonderful people along the way in my life. And I met a woman named Carla J. And Carla J. is an author. Her last name is Jay. And it was cute. She started with one kind of fun, flirty romance kind of genre. And then she switched, and she's now writing more historical fiction, and she tends to focus on World War II. So I am reading Carla J's most recent publication, which is called No Time to Mourn. And it's just interesting. I love reading. I love getting insight into what life was like or might have been life at a different time. So Carla actually chose to focus on the island of Malta, which is a small Mediterranean island. And it was under siege during World War II. So this is the island of Malta during World War II. And this island is under siege, and it's constantly being attacked by Italy and now Germany, because it's constantly under attack. Boats can't get to the island to provide food, so the people are starving. I mean, it is just, it's heart-wrenching to read and to see how their lives are changing. And of course, we know that during World War II, there was a leader who was asking that all the people of the world bowed down to him. We know that Hitler was the driving force behind World War II, and Hitler wanted to rule the world, and he wanted everyone to bow down to him. And so, when you look at that, don't tolerate people who try to run your life. I mean, I wasn't alive at the time. I don't know what it was like. The people I'm reading, they're not trying to follow Hitler. They're trying to just stay safe and hide from him. But certainly there were people who did follow Hitler, and they thought that what he was saying was true. Bless you. Sorry. But that's just, I like that this verse gives you pause and gives you an opportunity to stop and think. And I love the way this verse ends. It's Colossians 2:18, and it says, these people who are trying to rule your life, trying to make you bow down to them, trying to tell you what faith should look like, they're completely out of touch with the source of life. They're not in touch with God. So if you start to hear that, if you start to hear people who are insisting that you do something, and especially if they're insisting that you do something that doesn't match up to the Bible. So this Bible, it's always good to have it around, to review it, to verify what's said. I actually was talking to somebody the other day about the number 13, and I said, well, you know why the number 13 is unlucky, don't you? And she said, well, it's in the Bible. And no, it's not. The Bible doesn't mention the number 13. It was just when Catholicism entered England, and probably maybe even Germany, I'm not quite sure. The way the Catholic Church converted in those days was to pick and choose, take things that the culture was doing and saying, oh, we do that, right? That's part of our faith. And then whatever they didn't want to add in to the faith, they'd vilify the rest of it and say, oh, well, that's evil. So, some of the images that we have of Satan and, what's evil comes from that transition where the Catholic Church is coming into a new culture and saying, hey, believe in us, which is, the Catholic Church was representing Christ, so that's okay. But just the way that they would say, here's what we'll keep, here are the things that we'll keep, and here are the things that we're going to get rid of. So the ideal number of witches in a coven is 13. And so the Catholic Church took the number 13 and said, oh, the number 13 is evil, so you can't, don't associate with the number 13. And it's insane, like how readily that was adopted in and how rampant that is in the culture. Like there are buildings that are built without a 13th floor, or at least, when you look at the floor numbers, there's no 13 because, it's evil. But it was funny that I was talking to this woman and she said, oh, 13, it's a bad number. It's in the Bible. No, it's not. So always verify, trust but verify. You can always ask, is what this person's saying in the Bible? And if it's in the Bible, then okay, let's see what we can do. But there are a lot of people, and that's why I like to fold in 1 John 4:5 of enemies belong to the world, and they will speak the language of the world because it's more appealing, right? It's more appealing to say, if you want to have sex before marriage, that's okay. If you just want to have a loose relationship with somebody, that's fine. If you want to have kids with several different people, that's okay. And not to say you can't be a Christian if those things have happened. We make choices. We make choices in our lives, and God has given us that freedom that we can make those choices. And sorry, if you've watched a video before, you've heard that timer and you know what that timer is. And that timer is I'm not baking this time. That timer is my son. He'll be running through here in just a moment to turn off his timer. So the enemies will speak the language of the world. They'll say things that sound far more appealing than what the Bible says, because they speak the language of the world, and that's more appealing. And just being able to say, oh, you just do what you want, and you make the choices you want, and everybody can. Listen, we all have the freedom. Make the choices that you want. The question is, what kind of consequences do you want to face? So, it's a foggy morning, and I hope that in some way, shape, or form, at the very least, I encourage you to pick up the Bible and to dive into it a little bit more, and to see if you can cut away some of the fog that is in your own life, if you have any concern or question about who God is and how he shows up in your life. So I just find that all of the answers are in the Bible. So our verses that we read again today were Ecclesiastes 7:13, consider the work of God, who can change what he has made. Colossians 2:18, don't tolerate people who try to run your life, ordering you to bow and scrape, insisting that you join their obsession with angels, and that seek out visions. They are a lot of hot air. That's all they are. They are completely out of touch with the source of life. And finally, 1 John 4:5, these enemies belong to this world, and the world listens to them because they speak its language. So I hope I have encouraged you to seek a little more discernment in your life, to ask questions, and to ultimately look to the Bible for the truth that it holds, and to believe in God and to trust in God. So thank you so much for tuning in. Hopefully I'll get another video done soon, but until then, happy holidays.